Today we're going to take a look at the Argweld pipe purging systems and weld purge monitors. Generally, when you're welding stainless steel pipe or chrome or Inconel or any of the materials that require a back purge, the most costly, time-consuming, and frustrating part of the job is getting a good purge. The Argweld brand has been an industry leader for years, pioneering the development of tandem inflatable purge systems. So today we're going to go over the PurgElite systems and the quick purge systems, which are designed for larger pipe diameters. We're going to cover the PurgEye 100 weld purge monitor and just kind of show you how these systems work, how they can save you time and money, reduce your operating costs and your overhead, and basically help you get better welds more consistently, again using a lot less gas and a lot less time. Now, there are other alternatives to pipe purging. You got paper dams, which are problematic because they're time consuming to build. They're not very reliable. They can blow loose in the middle of the weld and you can lose your purge. You've got disc systems that are made out of discs that go on either side of the weld to try and isolate that weld joint. And those can work good in some applications, but they're not particularly ideal for using in elbows or bends. They don't typically work real well in that sort of a situation. And they're also very size specific, so you have to use a very specific size disc for each size pipe that you're working with. These inflatable systems basically do a much better job a lot more quickly, and they have a bit more tolerance with regards to the pipe ID or the size that they can fit, because they can cover a little bit of a greater range. They also work well in bends. They're designed to be pulled through the pipe work and positioned right where you need them. So we're going to go through these systems. Of course, when you're using a pipe purging system, it's very important to use a good weld purge monitor, because if you're using a system that can get your joint purged in a minute or two, the only way you're going to know that you have a purge that quickly is if you're using a monitor. If you don't have a monitor, then your welders are basically going to have to stand around waiting for 20 or 30 minutes or more, depending on the size of pipe, to make sure they have a good purge. With the purge monitors, you can tell immediately when you've got a good purge and you can start welding, so they work hand in hand with the purge systems. So the PurgEye 100 weld purge monitor comes in a case like this. Comes with your calibration certificate, your operating instructions, and this is an incredibly easy system to use. You basically pull the unit out of the box. You pull your tubing out of the case as well and connect it to the flow adapter that covers the sensor. You have an aspirator bulb that plugs in as well. That's just used to initiate the flow of gas across the sensor. So basically you pull the unit out of the box, you press the power button to turn it on, and you see it starts up right away. There's no warm-up time, there's no extra calibration or setup procedure that's required. The unit will start reading generally right around ambient air, which is going to be somewhere in the 20 to 21% range of oxygen. Remember, these units are reading oxygen level. So once the unit's powered up, you have a push-button instant calibration feature here. So you're just going to push and hold that calibration button for about 3 seconds, and the unit will flash to 20.94% O2. Now this unit is calibrated and ready to go virtually within seconds of pulling it out of the box. So these are very, very easy to use. We're going to be using the stainless steel probe that's on the end here. Typically when you're doing pipe work, you're going to have a gap, generally an 1/8 inch gap at your joint. So basically you take the stainless probe, we're just going to poke that through the tape. We've used the Argweld heat-resistant foil tape to tape off our joints, and we're just going to show you how these systems work. Okay, so first we're going to take a look at the PurgElite systems. This is a 6-inch unit. When the tandem inflatable purge systems first came out many years ago, they looked similar to this. There's been several improvements and changes that have been implemented over the years. It is now truly a plug-and-play system. A lot of the other systems, the older systems and some of the copycat systems that are out there use a spring-loaded brass valve that controls how much gas goes into the bladders and how much escapes out to purge. We've eliminated that sort of a valve because those can be problematic in the field, and if they stick or they aren't maintained properly, they can actually cause your bladders to overinflate and rupture. So we've done away with that sort of a design. We now have what's called an intercal fitting, which replaces those valves, and it really makes this system kind of truly a plug-and-play, no-brainer system. You just plug the gas in, you connect your gas on this side of the purge system, it inflates both of the bladders to a certain pressure, then it purges out the space in between. We offer what's called a PBS 502, and this is just a quick connect fitting that, as you can see, just pushes right onto the tubing on the purge system and locks in place. It's very secure, and then the other end of it just threads right onto a standard inert gas fitting that'll come right off of your argon hose. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just attach our argon fitting now, thread it right into that PBS 502 connector, and you just need to basically thread it in hand tight, put a wrench on there real quick just to make sure it's snug. And these systems are designed to run anywhere from 20 to 40 CFH. So as long as you've got a flow meter on your argon bottle, you just want to set your flow to somewhere between 20 and 40 CFH. So now that I've got it hooked up, I'm going to go ahead and turn the gas on. And you can see now once the gas is turned on, these bladders inflate very quickly. So if this was in the pipe right now, these bladders would be sealing off on that pipe ID on either side of the joint. And as you can see in a situation like this, your joint's going to be right there. You can see the bladders are already nice and full. They're nice and hard. And what's nice about these inflatable dam systems is they won't blow loose. So once they're sealed off on the pipe ID, they give you a real nice, hard, solid seal. So you don't have to worry about losing your purge throughout the process. Now that you see how the system looks when it's inflated, we're going to go ahead and turn the gas off. We're going to put it into this elbow here. We've got a 6-inch stainless steel elbow. We'll put it into position, turn it on, and show you how quick and easy it is to purge this joint here. Okay, so we've got our 6-inch PurgElite unit here. Just going to slip it into this elbow. The nice thing about these systems is that they're flexible. They will go around bends, and these bladders will still seal even though they're not in a section of straight pipe. So I've got the bladder system in position. We'll go ahead and turn on the gas. And we're running at about 35 CFH, which will give us a good amount of gas flow. Those bladders are going to seal off nice and tight. And once those are sealed, that's a firm enough seal on that ID that if I yank on this hose or try and budge that bladder, it won't even move. You can punch that bladder and it's really nice and firm in there. So now that we've got our gas running, we'll go ahead and take our monitor. We're going to go ahead and put the probe through the tape here at the top of the joint. And now that we're already purging, I'm just going to go ahead and give this monitor a couple of squeezes on the aspirator bulb, which will start the gas flowing across that monitor. We're already down from 20%. We're already down to under 7% O2 in literally a matter of seconds. So now those numbers are dropping, and we're just going to wait until we get to basically below 1% is good for any of your stainless or super duplex work. Some jobs require a lower oxygen level, and in those situations then you just let it keep going down lower. We also have other monitors available that'll read down to the 10 parts per million range. But for most of your stainless steel or super duplex work, this PurgEye 100 is a perfect unit. It's handheld, it's portable, and it'll read down to 0.01% oxygen or 100 parts per million. So you can see here now we're already down to below 3% oxygen, and we've actually only been going for a matter of probably about a minute, minute and a half. We're now at 1.9% and still dropping. And these numbers, if you can see the numbers there on the camera, they're just dropping like a rock. You can see that oxygen level dropping real steady. And we're now already at 0.82% and dropping. Okay, so we're already good to go. You'd be welding on this piece right now, and as you can see, it was literally only a matter of, maybe 2 minutes to put that system into place, turn the gas on, and have that joint purged and ready to weld. So it's a very quick and easy and efficient system. All right, so we just took a look at how these PurgElite systems work, and what we're going to get into next is the quick purge systems, which are designed specifically for larger diameter pipe. When these systems started being used widely in the industry on large job sites, LNG plants, that sort of thing, where they're running a lot of large diameter stainless pipe. It became clear that we needed to have a better system that was designed for larger pipe diameters, because as these bladders get larger and larger and larger to accommodate larger pipe, there isn't quite enough structure with these systems, and they can be a little bit more difficult to get to seal properly once you've dragged them into the position in the pipe. So Argweld came up with this design here, which is called a quick purge system. And as you can see, you still have two bladders that isolate the weld joint on either side. You still have the pull tabs that you can tie off to drag the system through the piping. You can still bend these units and they can still go around elbows. But as you can see, when it's sitting here, even when it's completely deflated, this sleeve gives the unit enough support to maintain the shape of the bladders, so that when they're dragged into position in the pipe, they're going to seal off automatically without any messing around. When you turn the gas on, those bladders seal off nicely on the pipe ID. And the other thing that this sleeve accomplishes is that it actually eliminates the majority of the volume that needs to be purged between the two bladders. So not only are you isolating your joint, but you're also eliminating most of the volume between those bladders. So it makes the purge time much more quick, and it cuts down on your gas consumption, your argon, dramatically, because you're not having to purge that whole volume or that whole void. You're only having to purge a couple inches around the ID of the pipe between those bladders. So the way these systems work, you've got a primary gas feed here, which is the black tube. Then you have here an auxiliary feed. So the primary gas feed is going to go into the bladders and feed the bladders, so it inflates those bladders with the argon, and then it purges out through one of these diffuser ports, these purge ports here that's built into the sleeve. Then you also have this auxiliary line, which today on the 12-inch purge that we're going to do, we've got a piece of 12-inch pipe back here. We're not even going to have to bother with this auxiliary line, but when you get into larger pipe diameters, 18, 24, 36, so on, when you get into those large pipe diameters, then you want to use this auxiliary line, so you would actually hook a second argon hose to this line, and the auxiliary feed bypasses the bladders and goes directly to another purge port in the sleeve. So you can basically crank as much gas or as little gas through that auxiliary feed as you want. It gives the welder a lot of control if they want more gas coming out, so they don't lose their purge when they start peeling that tape back to start taking that route. They can increase the gas flow when they're closing out the weld. If they want to bring the gas pressure down so they don't overpressurize the weld, they can turn that auxiliary line completely down or off if they want to. So it gives the welder a lot of control with regards to how much gas you have going into that joint to get your purge. So as you see with the PBS 502 fittings, what's nice about these, you can just pop them right off of one purge system. So I'm disconnected from that PurgElite. We'll go ahead and hook it up to the quick purge system. Again, this is a 12-inch unit. Another nice feature that we'll show you here in a minute is when you pull this system into the position in the pipe, you have this strip here in the middle, which is called root glow, and it basically is just a glow-in-the-dark strip that lets you see when you have that unit positioned properly in the pipe. So this will hold its glow-in-the-dark capabilities for up to 12 hours. So as soon as we pull that into the pipe, when you're looking through that gap, you can see that center strip, and it lets you know that you have the purge system positioned properly in the pipe right away. Okay, so we're getting ready to do this purge on this 12-inch stainless steel coupon here we've got. Now obviously, ordinarily in the field or in a fab shop even, you'd have long sections of pipe that are being connected. Again, with other methods of purging, you can cap the ends, in which case you have to purge the whole run and you're waiting on a purge for an hour or more and you're just using a ton of gas. Or you can try and build paper dams. Those are unreliable, they can blow loose. You can use other type of dam systems that require time building them, setting them up, and that kind of thing. Again, with the quick purge system, it's about the fastest way you can possibly purge a joint. They're very effective. You use them over and over, and they pay for themselves in no time between the savings in man hours, because now you don't have your guys standing around waiting on a purge, and then it's also going to cut down on your gas consumption dramatically. So your argon costs will drop significantly when you use this type of system. So now that we've got our gas connected to the primary feed on the unit, I'll go ahead and turn the gas on again just so you can kind of see the bladders inflate. You can hear the gas flowing. These bladders are already getting full. So if this was in the pipe, this would already be sealing off that joint and you'd already be purging out that joint. Now you can see the bladders just keep getting tighter and tighter. Again, when these are sealed off on the pipe ID, they are not going to come loose. It gives you a real nice solid purge dam on each side of that weld. Okay, so we've got our tape peeled back here so that we can see into our joint, and I'm just going to push the purge system into position. We'll get the camera right up here on this gap so that we can see that glow in the dark strip when it goes in there with no trouble, and you see how easy it is to see when you've got that bladder positioned properly in the pipe. You can see now that root glow strip in the middle of the purge system is clearly visible, so we know we've got the purge system centered properly on that weld joint. So we'll go ahead and close off our tape now. Okay, so now we've got the purge system pulled into position in the pipe. We've got that 12-inch quick purge in there. We've got it centered on the joint. You saw that with the root glow strip in the middle. So we're set up and ready to go. And just to show you how quick this system will purge out this 12-inch pipe joint, we're going to go ahead and time it. So I'm going to use my phone here, and we'll run a stopwatch so we can actually time how long it takes to purge out this joint completely so that you're ready to weld. We should be able to get it down to about 1% within about 3 or 4 minutes. So I'm going to turn the gas on here now that we've got the system positioned and ready to go. And I'm going to run right at about 35 or 40 CFH. I'm starting the stopwatch. So we'll just let this run uninterrupted, and you'll see how quickly this purges out the joint. Within about a minute or so, the bladders are going to be nice and tight on that pipe ID, and when they inflate, again, they get rock hard and they're very solid on that pipe ID, so there's no risk of losing the purge or anything. You could actually punch those bladders, you could pull on them, they're not going to budge, so they're giving you a nice firm seal in the pipe. I can reach in there now. Sure enough, we're only at about 30 seconds and these bladders are already sealed off on the pipe ID, which means now that that joint is already getting purged. So I've got the PurgEye 100 monitor here set up on a Gorilla tripod on the pipe, which makes it easy to just kind of see what's going on while you're working. And I'm going to poke the tape, the stainless steel probe through the tape here at the top of the joint so we can start reading that O2 level. I'm going to give the aspirator bulb on the monitor just a couple of squeezes just to initiate the gas flow across the sensor, and then you can start seeing those numbers drop right away. So it's only been going now for about a minute and 30 seconds, and we're already down to about 10% oxygen. So you can see we've already cut that oxygen level from ambient, which is about 20.94%, down to now we're below 10% in less than 2 minutes. So you can see it's very effective. Okay, we're now down at below 2% oxygen. It's only been 4 minutes. So a lot of welds, I've been on job sites, on LNG sites, where they're allowed to begin welding their stainless steel pipe at anything below 2% O2. So in that case, you'd already be welding. In other jobs, if you have a requirement for a lower oxygen level, you'd let it keep going. For today's demonstration, just to show, we're going to take it down to about 1% or less than 1% and see how long that takes. But we're already, we're only 4.5 minutes into this, and we've already almost got it down to 1%. We're at actually 1.73% right now, and it's still dropping. Okay, actually we're already reading now 0.73 and still dropping. So at this point, we're less than 1% oxygen. And you can see here on the stopwatch, we're just at 5 minutes, 28 seconds, 5 minutes, 30 seconds. So basically in 5 minutes, we've purged this 12-inch joint down to below 1% oxygen. So at this point you'd be welding, you get a nice clean weld with no oxidation, and that's about as fast as you can possibly purge a 12-inch joint like that. So we're going to go ahead and let this continue to run, and we're going to bring the camera over here and show you inside the pipe how well that bladder is sealed off there and how firm that is, and that'll give you an indication of how reliable that purge is, because it's not a system that can come loose or get, cockeyed in the pipe or can blow loose or anything like that. So there's just no risk of losing your purge. And when you're welding, especially larger diameter pipe, that's one of the problems is if you get halfway through your purge or halfway through your weld and then you lose your purge, now you got a big problem. So with these systems, you really don't have that concern at all. And you can see now we're down at 0.5 something percent. So we're getting very, very low down there with the oxygen level. I'll just give it another couple squeezes on the aspirator bulb to encourage more gas flowing across that sensor. And that actually brought our reading down to 0.24%. Now that we're down to the very low level, I went ahead and initiated what's called a zero calibration feature. So I just pressed and held that calibrate button, and that's going to dial that sensor in to read down at the very low levels near 100 parts per million and give you the most accurate reading possible. So for the next minute or so, it'll flash back and forth between calibrate and the readout of oxygen level. And when it stops flashing back and forth and gives you a solid read, that's giving you your final reading. And usually it'll do that when it's down right to about 100 parts per million. So while we're letting it do that, we'll go ahead and bring the camera around and show you what the bladder looks like inside the pipe. You see the bladder system in there. Now I'm just going to try and reach in here and show you, but if I punch on that, it doesn't even move that bladder, so it's very, very solid. Now you can see that the monitor has stopped flashing back and forth. It was reading 0.01%, which is 100 parts per million, and now it's actually zeroed out, which means we've now got this purge down to below 100 parts per million in this 12-inch joint. And that's how quick and easy these systems are. As you can see, there's very little time to set up or anything. You just drag them into position, turn your gas on, let it go, and then within a matter of 5 minutes you're welding. So we're saving a lot of gas, cutting down on your gas usage, so that's going to reduce your production costs, and we're eliminating a lot of that downtime when you've got your welders standing around waiting on a purge, because we've basically eliminated that. If you can be welding a 12-inch joint in under 5 minutes or at 5 minutes, you're in pretty good shape. So that pretty much concludes our demonstration. If you have any questions on these systems or you want more information, please contact us. You can go to our website at www.cob-industries.com, or you can call us at 800-431-1311. Thank you for watching.